mute is off, and we're going to go in 3, 2, 1, and hi, welcome to G3. So glad you could join us again. We're a show where women get together and talk about tech and talk about the tech world and talk about how those things collide sometimes. Today's April 30th, the last day in April, and this is our 41st episode. Welcome to 41. Hi, everybody. Okay, so I would like to introduce you. Oh, I'm Tina Chase Gilmore. I always forget that. Okay. I'd like to introduce you to my lovely co-host. Up in my upper left, in our Brady Bunch square, is Rebecca Woodcock. Hi, Rebecca.
Hi. Hi, Tina. Hi, everyone.
And in my lower left, Francine Hardaway. Hi, Francine.
Good morning, Tina. I just looked at behind me. I'm in American Green's office, and I got all these Post-it notes behind me. I look like an episode of Silicon Valley.
It's very cute, and you do. Up in my upper right is Hallie Suit Tucker. Hi, Hallie.
Hi, how are you?
Just back from the dentist's office. We promise not to make you talk too much, Hallie.
Bugging me a little bit.
Well, so glad you could join us. And back from a whirlwind trip, a little work, a little pleasure, is Christy Wells. Hi, Christy.
Hi, guys. Glad to be back.
We can't wait to hear all about your trip to Ireland, and somehow we'll figure out a tech angle because we've got to hear about it. And I'm lusting after that trip because Steve and I had a lovely, quick but lovely trip to Ireland a few years ago, and I can't wait to go back. I really do.
We actually, the city of Phoenix actually has a sister city in Ireland, and I went to Ennis, which is the Phoenix sister city in Ireland, and I got a big lecture on the tech environment in Ireland. So, Christy, what did you see?
Well, I mean, I think for us, we spent quite a bit of half of our time in the countryside. But when you're actually in Dublin, Dublin's becoming like a hardcore tech scene. You know, you've got a lot of the big boys, Google, Facebook, Airbnb. They've all set up headquarters in Dublin and setting up shop and hiring a lot of folks. And, you know, the community is strong. There's meetups, there's drink ups, there's co-working spaces. You know, it was actually quite impressive to be able to just step off the plane and roll right into that scene and feel very welcoming, as the Irish do anyways. But then you add it with a bunch of, you know, related items like being in love with tech and all world tech. And it's fantastic. So it's thriving. I mean, we're actually talking about getting back there more often.
My son-in-law works for a startup that's based in Dublin. It's called Sanru, and it does like video interviewing software, or video screening software. But he said the Irish government was giving enormous economic incentives for startups and entrepreneurial ventures.
They are. I mean, they're actually really enticing people to come from the States and across other, you know, European countries too. And, you know, it's interesting. It poses us a little problem because now we're kind of enticed as well. And so what do, right? Do you leave the place you've grown up with and go to the new lands like our ancestors have done before us, and tap into that? But like I said, they are very aggressive. They are welcoming the tech scene. A lot of the big companies are setting up shop there. And Dublin's one to watch, more so than I'd say like London or even Berlin, right? Which some of these guys have started to be tech hubs as well. But Dublin's where it's at right now. That's
really interesting. I hope that we don't lose Christy Wells, though, because that would make me sad and cry. But you can go visit there and come back with your stories. I'm allowing that.
She looked pretty happy when she was over there.
So listen, ladies. Apple Watch is shipping. Twitter's stock is down. Secrets out.
Secrets out.
Facebook, dominates all.
I'm
and
so
today
happy.
I wanted to ask you this. Today is National Honesty Day, whatever that means. So, anything honest you want to tell us today? Any little honest tidbit? No. Rebecca's just shaking her head like, no, I don't do honest.
No. Honesty on the internet? Are you kidding?
Well, that kind of brings me to Secret. Secret's out, and I have a feeling that honesty and anonymity sort of played a part in that. What led to Secret's downfall? Did you know that it was gonna not work?
I did. I did because I sat on Secret. I had downloaded Secret right away, as I download everything right away, and I tried it. And after a while, what I began to see is that I was being a therapist for people on Secret who were either contemplating suicide or very upset about their jobs or felt like they had a lot of money, but their lives had no meaning, and then they were all very, I must have been the oldest person on Secret. So, I was like in the position of giving advice all the time. And I got bored. And I
I'm
left.
sure, and I don't think that that's what that site was intended to do. Hallie, had you ever used it? Did you ever download it? Were you interested?
Not really. And I don't know. I think, I always felt like Facebook's busy taking all our secrets, whether we tell them to or not. So I'm a little no thanks about it. So.
Well, I think it's interesting because, well, one, the holiday itself, National Honesty Day, right? It's actually opposite of April Fool's Day, which gets a lot of fanfare. So we're more interested in fooling and pranking people than we are about honoring honesty, which is, we'll leave that there. But I think for Secret, it's fascinating. Like, I never used it. Like, I remember when it first came out and people were talking about it, and I just said, I don't get it, because I guess the jaded part of me is always like, nothing's ever actually anonymous, that somebody somewhere will be able to find out who actually posted that. And I had no desire to do it. I'm like, if I'm going to say something, I'm going to stand up behind it and own it. Otherwise, I'm just going to shut the fuck up and not say anything at all. And so I think it was entertaining for some, but I had no practical use for it.
And really, how do you create community out of anonymous people?
Well, you don't. That's exactly right, because
that's
you
what they
don't know
said.
who you're creating in the community with or even around. I had no idea who I was talking to.
Right.
That's one
And
of their problems,
It's very
too.
unsettling, right? Yeah, go ahead.
They couldn't create any sort of virality, too. So after the initial uptake, the anonymity of it actually came to bite them, because they had very little growth after the first novelty, because they couldn't get any virality, because nobody could really share or know who was using it.
But there was something in it. People liked the idea of being able to maybe expose a truth that they couldn't actually say in real life, in their workplace, usually in their workplace, I think.
Some people like that. I personally, I never downloaded it ever, because for two reasons. I don't feel like Christy. I don't feel like there's any truth to anonymity in the internet. I do not believe in that concept. It does not exist.
I think that's what happened, Rebecca. Either Whisper or Secret. Secret had a competitor named Whisper, and either Whisper or Secret, someone found out that it was, you could tell who the people were. And so it really wasn't anonymous after all, because you could triangulate and reconstruct the information and find out actually who was posting. And I think that's
do you guys remember that there was a site that showed postcards that people wrote secrets on and mailed in, and that was very popular right
How
before
you have blue fingernails.
Sorry?
You have blue fingernails.
I do.
And they're adorable.
They are adorable.
That doesn't answer my question. Do you remember that site?
I don't remember it.
They did, and a book came out with people.
Yeah, they turned it into a book.
Mail these postcards that said, they were pretty funny, and graphically it was very beautiful.
Post secret.
Huh?
Post secret.
Exactly. Do you think did that kickstart this Secret app? No.
But
I think it was.
That
it was
was also
supposed to be
a visual sort of. They had a visual dynamic there, and I think that was maybe lacking in Secret also, right?
Well,
I think
this
the
is in
novelty
a
wears off.
background. Wasn't it the background of all these things? The time when Twitter's like supposedly secret DMs kind of went public, and so all these things are happening all the time, where things you don't want to have be public are suddenly no longer a secret. So I always thought, like, why do you need something that's
Well,
going to make sure?
The
It's
other
just-
thing that happened too is remember the whole Gamergate thing, and there was a lot of
Yes.
bullying, and it just seemed like there was a fuel thrown on bullying within Secret, and I think that turned a lot of people away from it as well.
Most decidedly. And I think what's interesting though is this whisper continues, and that whisper had figured their way around. I read an article that they had lots of people, apparently many, many, many people in the Philippines going through looking for bullying early on and getting rid of it. They had really jumped on the don't let that happen on our site, and they lived to tell the tale, and Secret's gone. So maybe that was a big, this certainly has become in this year a big deal. The female shaming, the bullying, the Gamergate stuff. So they were smart enough to keep that at bay. But on another, I don't know, I am even got like, don't give me another app problem. I just don't want another. I don't want to remember.
And on a scale of
And
1 to 10, you know, Secret is not very high up on the list of potential priorities. If you're gonna say launch something, you know, Secret's like just above a fart app for me. I don't have time for it.
We lost
I can't hear
voice.
you.
Oh, Steve.
There you go.
Hello. It got huge money.
Yes.
They're
It
giving
did
it
get
back.
huge money.
They're giving it back. David Bitto wrote a piece on Medium in something called Secret Den that said that they were shutting it down because it didn't resemble what their vision had been for it. And so they thought the best thing they could do would be to give the money back to the investors. So they're going to do that.
So I find that interesting because I read another article that said that they actually cashed out on quite a huge chunk of it last year, and even
6
talked
million.
about 6 million, and bought Ferraris and all that. And so it created a lot of doubt within their team that why would they do that? Did they know all along, and that's why they cashed out and they got theirs, or you know what happened? So I don't know. There's a lot of speculation floating around as to what really happened. But if there is money left and they're giving that back, I commend that.
Well, I think it's amusing because the Ferrari that apparently Bitto bought with the money that some of the money that he cashed out with is gone.
Yeah.
So
He gave the Ferrari back as well.
Now there's,
Well,
you know, it's
I
kind
doubt
of
it.
it's kind of an appearance thing. If you're shutting down your company
Yeah.
and you're still riding around in a
Right.
red Ferrari,
Not so good.
He banked
That's
the
a little bit
Ferrari.
of a bad form, yeah.
yeah, bad for your image. Bad for your image.
You
So-
guys, I want to hear about Apple Watch because I spent 15 minutes on the phone the other day with somebody raving about it, and I can't stand it. I don't get it. I don't want one. What is the deal?
Look,
I don't plan to get
Apple
one
is the
either.
deal. Apple is a brand, and when Apple does something, everybody buys it.
Not me.
And I'll give you a really good example of that. I ordered it, even though I have and have been wearing for a year a first generation Pebble, which is fine for what I need. I have kickstarted the second generation of Pebble because I'm curious about what Pebble will do next. And now I'll have an Apple Watch. Well, if you count up, you'll realize that I have 3 watches, 3 smartwatches, and 2 wrists. So this is
That's a
obviously
problem.
not a rational decision. It's a brand-driven decision.
You know, I still think that it's in that place where we just don't know how we're going to react to it, how it's going to go, how our lives will take to it or not take to it. And we're all, I mean, if you are an Apple fan, then you are really curious about that. And a lot of people are going to go for it. So I know a good amount of people who are saying, no, I'm going to wait this one out. And you know, sort of see how it goes. I know that even one of our most fervent Apple fans, Robert Scoble, was a little lukewarm actually on the idea.
He got his
and he
last
got
night,
his.
though.
God is he's talking
got-
all about it.
He got his, and he's
Loves
kind of
it.
liking it. So
Come
here's
on, it's
here's the
just
thing:
to
you got to
say,
use
I
it.
got it, and you don't. No, 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 no. Isn't it? Here's
He's
what I
gonna
would
take
do.
it off. He's going to take it off.
If I
in
took
2 weeks.
the same money it costs and invested in Apple stock today and see the value a year from now compared to the value of the stupid watch a year from now, I think
watch
I
is
would do
gonna
better.
be in-
What could
the
you
watch
get?
is
One
gonna be
share?
in a drawer.
About
The
one
watch
share.
will end up in a drawer. That's
Yeah, I think so
like
too.
Scoble did with Google Glass, where he said, "Oh, I'm never taking this off. It's
Yeah.
so wonderful." And then, he ended up putting it in a drawer and
Well-
saying that it was a failed product. I'm not sure that a watch
Not
is
so
the
fast,
way
ladies.
to use
Come
a
on.
wearable.
Yeah, it's
Tina,
a real,
are you buying one?
Yeah.
Well,
Show us your wrist.
I don't have one. I don't have one.
You got one for Steve.
I
know
was
it.
I certainly, my husband asked me, should I order one for you? Because he did order one. He didn't get it yet. Because, he ordered it like at 12:03. I think.
right?
So,
Steve seems to think that notifications really matter. And the
Yes, he
rest of the
does.
world is beginning to think that notifications are a pain in the ass, and that the more of them we can turn off, the better we are.
I
you
vote
know,
on that.
I don't
I
know
vote
that the
on
world is
that.
saying that right now. I think some people are saying that, and I think, I think some people are saying quite the opposite. That notifications are where it's at, and then we're going to have a lot of headless apps, and we're going to interact with them basically through notifications, and we're this is already.
What the hell is a
this
headless
ball is
app?
already rolling. Hallie's like,
Headless
forget
app.
it.
I love that because I
What
think
is
you
a
have headless
headless
people.
app?
Once the 400 notifications are distracting them every minute. I have 0 notifications turned on now, and I love it. I'm like, I want to find out something. I'll go look. I've had it with that.
That's a preference. That's definitely, the way you want to run your life, but it's not the way that everyone wants to run their lives. And I think that, I think that fine tuning is going to get better and better and better. So I think for those who, who want to run their lives that way, and the fine tuning starts to click in, it can be, super effective. But, I don't know. Jury's out about the watch. Not enough people that I know actually have it yet and have been using it. So I haven't heard, like, firsthand what their experience is.
You'll
I
hear
have
Robert.
that
Whoa.
experience because, sorry.
Rebecca.
My brother told me he's definitely, as soon as it comes out, he wants to get one. So he's definitely. But I have I don't know. I'm skeptical. I'm not sure of the value yet.
I have a feeling also that less women are
Fewer.
Fewer.
Yes,
Yes,
fewer.
exactly. Fewer.
Less.
Sorry.
Yes.
Can't help it.
I'm
Fewer,
much
you're
more
right.
PhD
price
in English.
value
women are
conscious
into it.
as well.
What's that?
I'm much more of price value conscious as well. Like I
Mhm.
want to make sure there's enough value there for what I want to get out of it before
Right.
I make the purchase. And for the Apple Watch, I just really don't think I don't see it.
Well,
I don't
one
want
of the
notifications,
biggest
and I
things
can
I
tell
think is
time on
that-
my phone.
That there's overlapping value, right? I mean, the watch
Well-
is going to deliver kind of the same information that that the phone does. Jeez, I can't even get the word phone out.
Okay.
But maybe because it shouldn't even be called a damn phone anymore.
It isn't a phone.
I mean, who actually talks on it? Hardly anyone. But there are overlapping features. There's overlapping value, and that's where we have to see, does the value of getting haptic sort of information and brief bites of news. Now you start to listen to that people are getting. So many people are getting their news from Facebook, and
I read that.
I find it so hard to believe that fact is actually real these days. But if
What do
that's
you
so,
mean? Why do you find that hard to believe? I find that totally easy to believe. Where else are they going to get it from? That's where they spend their lives. A
Well,
lot of
that's
them
what
think the
they
internet
hope.
is Facebook.
You know, yeah, I don't know. It just kind of surprises me that such a great
My
percentage is
issue.
actually coming from Facebook or only from Facebook. I think the point
Right,
is
right.
only from Facebook. That
Also,
freaks me
how
out.
many of the things they're reading do they realize are actual, I'm sorry to sound like the corny journalist, but news sources or some other crazy crap?
Yeah.
So when you're mixing it all in, they have been doing these negotiations. I know Facebook with New York Times and Washington Post, and everybody's saying, hey, they're going to read news here. You better get it together with us here. But when then you're reading something about how to lose body fat, and then you're reading something about animal rescue, and then you're reading whatever. It's like, how that is truly mixed up. Are people assuming one is as credible as the other?
What
I
it's
worry
media
they are.
literacy, and we're going to need to teach it somewhere because there's nothing you can't tell the media from the ads anymore. That's this whole thing about native advertising.
Right.
Nobody wants you to know whether it's credible or crap, and so it's going to be harder and harder to tell without a scorecard.
Well, and I think my point is also that news is kind of being taken in these, and it has been for a long time, taken in these little sound bites on TV. Now we're taking it in little tiny chunks on social media. So if I can fine tune my news to my
So that you
watch,
take less of it on
so
a
that
watch.
I get notifications about very specific news in very very brief form. That might cure my day as far as news.
News is going to vanish down the drain. I mean, if you
Yeah, I was
get
going to
smaller
say.
and smaller snippets, pretty soon it's going to be gone.
But
I
we
mean,
have
pretty much
smaller
the Apple
snippets.
Watch to me is the Yo app sitting on your
Ah,
wrist, which I don't really. I only use Yo app for one thing.
That's
One
totally
thing
right. The
only.
Yo app.
and you use it for
To get large earthquake notifications. So actually, when the Nepal earthquake happened, I was sleeping and I got the notification right away, and I saw how big it was and how close it was to Kathmandu, and I thought, oh wow, those people are going to be having a tough time. But yeah, I mean, it will notify you in the middle of the night for sure. But I don't want that all the time. I only want that for large
Christy,
earthquakes, not for
Christy, were
news.
you in Ireland? Christy,
No,
when the
no, we
thing,
were. Oh wait, yes.
and what was
Sorry,
the
this
news
last 2
like
weeks have been a
there?
blur.
What was the coverage like?
You know what? It was on the TV 24/7 there as well. So it definitely because BBC was covering it pretty heavily.
Yeah.
So it was hitting all the markets. It definitely is different news. I think honestly, when you look back, and I've compared Fox, CNN, some of the other people giving the stories now, I actually liked how the BBC was covering it because they were really focusing not on the sensationalism, but about the efforts and kind of like the
Yeah.
people on the street. And so I just it's interesting to kind of get that perspective because you realize just how sensationalized U.S. media is, and it just
Yeah.
And
That's what
filtered
I was
too.
wondering. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I suspected. And I know when I'm in Europe, it's so much more international, the news, right? Our news is so provincial. It's only the U.S. so often. And when I'm abroad, I'm like, wow, it's really international.
well, and it's interesting.
I
You
love
guys,
the
I've been
BBC.
reading a lot.
And
whoa.
I've
Go
been
ahead.
reading a lot
Go ahead,
about
Christy.
the Baltimore
Yeah.
situation going on right now too. And actually, it's interesting if you go to BBC, look how BBC is reporting on the Baltimore activity versus U.S. media.
I know.
That's the only case study you ever need to just say is like, I will probably not watch U.S. media as much as I refer to some of the other larger networks internationally now.
I
So how are
watch
they portraying
German
it?
news with my husband because he's fluent in German, and I find it really fascinating. I'm suck at German, except thank God every other word is like Android, and like half the words are all stolen from English, and otherwise they sound like Schweinhund, so that's okay too. But so I make him translate sometimes, but just to see what they cover and what matters is pretty fascinating. And I know how to say earthquake now in German, but I won't. I'll spare you. It's like one of those
What does
like
Schweinhund
50
mean?
syllable words.
Oh,
Like something
Schweinhund.
shakes and then the house falls down. Shung. You know? But anyway, we have like a hilarious after dinner thing. We love the weather chick there. She's like, "Oh, sehr cold in Cologne." I'm like, "Uh-oh, it's cold in Cologne again." But and it's one of our weird, wacky. I have the weirdest TV scenario, but anyway, we don't have cable. We have broadcast and Netflix and Amazon, and so we have all these things. We get some really interesting news, and I love. We watch the news in German every night. And
Wow.
Which one of those platforms has the news in German? I would like to.
that is Netflix? No, maybe Amazon, maybe Netflix. I'm sorry. It's Netflix. Yeah, Netflix. And
Oh, cool.
it's called Tagesschau or something. It sounds like sauerkraut. And it's actually, but I'm not trying to make fun of it because it's
No, I
phenomenal coverage. It's really fascinating to hear about Hillary Clinton and the presidential stuff. It's wonderful, and so he translates stuff, and I'm like, I love this. This is insane, But how international their coverage of Nepal was really, really good, and like you said, it was all the rescue teams and efforts going on in all these countries. It wasn't just what we're doing, right? So the
Right.
Japanese team and this team and now what the Australians are doing. And it gives you a sense of the world. It's so different. And I think BBC is like that.
Yeah, we
Whereas
live in such a
Americans
bubble.
are so
It's
American-centric that the New York Times covered it as the death of Dan Frydenberg, which
Yeah,
isn't, is a very sad thing, but it's not the only earthquake news.
Right.
And the story behind that is that many people who are real climbers and in the climbing, circle feel like all these rich guys get rich and say, "Hey, I'm going to get some money and some Sherpas and go up the mountain and put others at risk." And so there is a lot of layers about that story. I mean, maybe you guys knew this guy and you love this guy and you're sorry he's dead, but if you ask people in the mountaineering, and they, again, on German TV, they're interviewing mountaineering people from Germany, from the Alps, from, everywhere, Swiss, and how so many people, also environmentalists, are really pissed off about what a mess. Everest is a mess. People leave all this crap and junk and like all this just refuse, and it's
Because you can spend $80,000 and get yourself a bunch of Sherpas and
Right.
get a package. Now I don't think that's what Dan Frydenberg did, because
Right,
he
and I
was
think we should
mapping-
clarify that
he was
too.
mapping,
He was there
Street
hiking
View
to
for
support
Google
two
Maps.
orphanages in Nepal.
Okay.
So, I mean, I do want to recognize that he actually was
Not
exceptional
like
in
that.
his social good efforts.
okay,
And
because I
so-
don't know, and I said I'm not sure, but I know there's a big discussion about it, even why people do that, and
Right.
and the local Sherpa people, and are they benefiting? Are they being used, etc.? But
Well,
it
there's
was
an economy
terrible.
there too. I think that the bigger issue is, yes, there was some life lost on Everest, but it's actually look at the life lost in Nepal as a whole, and the reason for that is because of the lack of real infrastructure, right?
Oh, did you guys? I mean, I lived in California a short time, but the first thing I saw when I saw everything tumbling and all the wrecks, it was very upsetting. But did you see the construction is like, it's like bricks or whatever? I'm like, Jesus, like when I moved from California to Boston, I saw all the bricks. I'm like, they're going to be dead in an earthquake. And then I'm like,
So,
well, they don't care.
Yeah,
They're
actually,
in Boston.
I've been seeing some updates from a friend of mine who owns a drone company called Skycatch, and I guess they've been enlisted by UNICEF and the government there in Nepal. They've just shipped over a bunch of drones and part of their team over there to start surveying all the damage and to help find try to find people to rescue, but really to see the extent of the damage. And they're already there now with their drones and starting to capture all of this and really the magnitude of the damage there. So it's interesting how they just flew over there in the last couple of days and
saw
using that technology.
Yeah, we saw that just recently in that plane crash that was very remote, and drones were sent in to sort of search really.
So I guess
so we're
the
seeing
issue,
more and more of a use of that.
yeah, and the issue there, I guess,
Disasters.
there's a lot of remote villages and places, and they're having a problem with mudslides now because
It looks
because
terrible.
of the earth shaking, and so there's a lot more destruction happening after the earthquake and all the mudslides and these villages getting buried that they need to find as well.
Now, you guys all have emergency packs ready.
Yes.
I don't live in California, so I am really lucky. There are no earthquakes in Arizona.
I need to
that
put
you
it
Are you
know
a
of.
heat
together.
stroke pack?
I did the right
Francine?
thing,
You need
I
a heat
left.
stroke pack.
So, so Christy, you're ready for an earthquake? Do you have a
Yes.
pack?
We actually have 3 smaller packs, like actual backpack-sized ones, that we keep in various places so they're easy access. And then we have a shed in our
Wow.
backyard that actually is more elaborate. So my husband was insistent that there be something not inside walls.
Exactly.
And so we have a shed
Whoa.
outside that has actually all of our camping equipment in it. So if ever something does happen and we can't get inside our house
Wow.
or to our car,
Yeah.
we have a stove and water and food and things accessible. It does remind
You're
me that I actually probably
prepared.
need to switch out the food because it's been over a year and you need to do that you have to maintain it. You can't just put a pack together and then forget about it. Like if you're putting food and stuff in it, that stuff does expire.
Changing it.
Yeah.
Right, but
So
like,
on
if
this-
my house is down, it's unlikely that I'm pitching tent here or
You might
getting
be
out my
to
grill.
dinner.
I mean, I just always figure I'll get out. Is
Yeah,
that
you get
wrong
out.
for me to?
Really?
Yeah,
That's such optimism.
No, wait. First of
You
all,
might need a tent.
you
I
could
just
be
leave.
out to dinner, okay?
Can't
so
I
it's-
leave?
It's not like, so if your bag is in your house and you go out to dinner and your bag's not in your car, you got no bag. So you need one not in the house.
Well, I think some people it's interesting because, like, I work in a high rise. Well, I work on the 9th floor, so it's not really a high rise, but it's higher than the second store of my house. So it's like I have a little tiny thing here that really is just easy access to water and like a little hammer thing if I need to break anything, like get into glass, like the house and break down a door. I just got really crazy eyed just a minute when I said that. I don't know why. It got me excited when I talked about breaking into the window.
glass.
I have one
Breaking
of those
glass.
in my car.
Ooh.
Oh Lord, it's been a long week. But I think the thing that's interesting is, I mean, you're not going to be able to protect yourself for every scenario, right? The hope is that if it does happen, you are nearby something that you can have access to, and that's why we have 3 different kits because one is in the car and one's somewhere else, and then one's in the house, and then one's in the backyard. So we actually have 4, but. I think it's just trying to be as prepared as you can be. But if I'm on the East Bay visiting family and stuff and they're not prepared, my kit in San Francisco is not going to do me any good.
I
So,
know.
you try to do the best that you can. And then you also, the most important thing for me though, is the call tree and making sure that not just the supplies, but figuring out if something does happen and you can't get a hold of somebody, whether it's a landline or the cell towers are down or something like that, how do you get word out to your loved ones? And so that's where, looking
Facebook.
at some of these, well, not Facebook even, because if Facebook, I mean, they've got servers all over the place, but what's that app that Nina actually was talking to us about at that one time? And it's
Fire chat.
Campfire? No,
Fire
night.
Fire chat.
Fire chat.
Fly?
Yeah.
Fire chat.
Yeah, and so using services like a fire chat can be extremely useful when everything else is down, that you could still activate your local communities to at least confirm that you're okay, figure out who needs what, and then start directing people into different places.
Yeah. It's
challenge
pretty
with Fire
scary to
Chat-
think about.
Isn't the challenge with Fire Chat is that you need other people with Fire Chat
Of course.
to have on their devices, or
Yes.
can it work without other people having
No,
Fire
you
Chat?
do need other people on Fire
Yeah.
Chat, but it's federated, so there is no central location for it. But
Yeah,
even
which I love.
if you just got on Fire Chat and said, "Call my mother and tell her, Francine is okay," you know what I'm saying? That would be better than nothing.
Right.
I
Guys,
think-
we're
I
going to
think-
talk about the
Yeah.
Baltimore lady whacking her son alongside the
Love
head.
That was wonderful.
Do
So
you just love that? That's mothers. That's how mothers should be.
I don't
Well,
love that.
He was
A
so
lot
terrified.
of people don't love it.
okay, so in the Baltimore riots, there is a woman who's, I guess, saw her. Did she see her kid on TV? Is that what happened?
Yes, she
Yeah.
saw him
If she-
wearing a mask on TV, and she recognized him underneath a mask and a hood. And she came racing out and tracked him down and,
Cussed
and
him
told
out
him
and told him
in
to
no
get his
uncertain
butt
terms and with
home.
lots of expletives that he needed to go home. And he couldn't run away from her. She took him home.
Okay, Christy didn't like it. Why?
Let's hear, yeah.
Here's the thing. I mean, you're in the heat of the moment, right? You're out there, you're actually scared for your child. I get it. You want to like smack some crap into your child. I mean, I was raised on a wooden spoon and I'm okay. But if my mom or dad came, well, I say that in all seriousness, but right? I mean, it's like, look, I got my ass beat every once in a while and I'm like, it's okay. I deserved it. But I think, the thing that's interesting is that, if one of my parents came up and started smacking me on the head like that, that's not okay, right? There's got to be a boundary of that too, and for
Do
me,
you
it's
think
like
the
going.
head part?
Do you
No,
still
it's just
feel
the
that way?
ferocity.
if
It's the
he's-
ferocity of her coming after him like she was, and there's a point of trying to grab him and smacking him. And I guess I just look at it like going, what happens in the household, right? Are there other contributing things? Is this a standard practice, and that's why he rebels? Or is this just in the heat of the moment? It was a one-off thing, and she just didn't know how else to get his attention and control him.
As a
Everybody's calling her
mother,
a hero, and I'm like, she's not a goddamn hero, right?
So if the child or if this person or any human being is throwing rocks at another human being and essentially, which is assault, I mean, does a smack in the head, does that even does that change it? I mean,
I'm not
sure,
saying
beating
what he did
somebody for
was
no
right.
cause.
Yeah, I'm not saying. Here's the thing. I don't think it's not an eye for an eye for me, right? And it's
Right.
like I don't think anything he did or any of that destruction. It's like when we win a champion series here at the Giants and the mission gets set on fire. I don't condone that activity. I have no tolerance for it. But I don't know. I mean, like I said, I got spanked growing up, but I didn't get the shit beat out of me. And I don't
She
know. There's a
wasn't really
difference.
Well, but I
She
think,
wasn't
what we're
feeling-
seeing here is in the media, we're seeing a parent kind of take charge and say, no, this, your violence isn't going to help. It's not going to solve this problem. You need to get your rear end home and rethink this. And
have to
I think
also
the
think-
strength. I think maybe it's just the strength of seeing a parent have their 2 cents in the middle of this melee. It sort of sent a message that not everyone who's out there doing this is supporting doing this. There's a mother at home who doesn't support what you're doing,
Well,
and there's
it's
probably a
bigger
lot
than
of other
that.
kids in that situation too.
It's bigger than that, Tina. This was a black mother trying to get her black child
Thank
off
you,
the
yes.
street so that he didn't get somehow killed in the middle of this
Mm-hmm,
the way a lot of other black teenagers have. And I think what she was saying to him is it had nothing to do with violence or whether he was rioting. It was like, you're going to get caught in the middle of this. You're going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you're going to be killed just like other black teenagers are killed. And
I think
you're my
that's-
only
that's-
son, and I don't want that to happen.
I think that's
I didn't get
maybe
the
what was
impression-
happening, but I think what's so fascinating is how many people read it with a whole different subtext. And I don't mean one or two subtexts, many. I read it like the people that think it's okay to like beat up in cops, black, white, green, blue, and are these young men. And there's a lot of violence that young men with no jobs and not a goddamn thing to do seem to be willing to make happen in this world. And moms are like, get the fuck off the street, you idiot. And I think there's also a backlash of, there's this feeling that young men with their brilliant internet startups are so brilliant. No, young men are dumb and they're full of testosterone and they do stupid, destructive things. And moms are like, you're a fucking idiot. Get out of here. And she was right, Francine, about he runs great risks. If it were a white mom with a white son, he doesn't run near the risks. But also, I think it's saying, who is creating a generation of kids who think it's okay to throw rocks at the police? Who are these kids? What's going on? And
I never got the impression
crazy.
that he was. I never got the impression that he was ever hurt. I mean, I don't think that was her intent. But I think the fact that his mom came down there, pulled him out of the riot in front of all these other people is, probably the more effective thing.
Right.
And if people just did that, the embarrassment, like, oh my gosh, my mom, and now it's on national TV that she is telling me what to do.
I would have been that woman.
I was that woman once on a bus. I was on a bus and these kids are like making trouble for some older guys in the back, some seniors. And I'm like, I'm sorry. I go and I sit right with them. And they're like,
it's just something that
so as a teaching moment, though,
could never do.
As a teaching moment, I think, there's two things that we're hearing here. Christy's sort of saying, well, smacking your kid upside the head and, that's maybe we're not teaching the right thing in the moment.
Right.
On the other hand, there's this moment of get your ass home. I raised you better.
Right, and I totally support that.
All of you out here, you're raised better. If I was out on the
street being an idiot, if my mom didn't come down and get my ass, she wouldn't be doing her job, right?
Right.
So I applaud her for making the effort to go down and get her son. It's just, and like I said, in the heat of the moment, like she unleashed, right? And for me, it was like going, I draw issue with people calling her a hero, right? I feel like she's being a mother, right? And she's
doing her job.
Son, right? She's doing her job. She's protecting her son. She could have done it a couple different ways, whatever, it happened. I was just causing to attention, like the terminology being used for her. But it was interesting because I saw an interview with her and him after the fact. And he actually said, look, I was being stupid. I shouldn't have been there. I got caught up in the moment. I can be better. And I think, so part of it was like, at first when I saw that, I was questioning her and how she rose her children. And then I saw her on the interview and she's like, a couple of things. She's like, God, if my pastor saw me doing that, he'd be really pissed off. And then he's like, yeah, I shouldn't have been there. My mom was right to pull me out. And so there was this lovely discussion happening after the fact. I just how it all happened.
That was a family with an involved parent.
Right.
And the woman isn't a hero, but on the other hand, as a mother, I can honestly say that I would have done the exact same thing.
Me too. But then it turns into the conversation of, well, if all those other black parents were just as involved as she is, she becomes this, all other black parents aren't so good. It's a really racist mess, frankly. And this thing has a lot of layers. I think very much like when we started watching the Ferguson scenario, and Ferguson brought up a lot of things about police and who they are. For a white woman in the suburbs, police are the nice guys who come and get the cat out of my tree. Okay, police in the inner city for young black men are it's a word that is very different. And I think America is really grappling with that. And I think these are like flashpoints to me, the cities that are getting, they're having Baltimore and Ferguson and all of it is about,
it seems.
Well,
we're hearing about it now every week. Now, whether it hasn't been happening that much, it's happening now, or whether it's been happening a lot, all the time, and now we're just getting,
two-letter I's. Income inequality. This is the world that we've created.
I disagree. I don't disagree with income inequality, but I disagree with the direction this is going in, because I am the white woman in the suburbs who's supposed to think that police are nice. And yet what I find is that our police are overzealous, overarmed. I mean, they just come at everything with military gear and less interested in our community than they are in, making Oh, I don't know. Giving tickets and raising revenue is one
Right.
thing, or, practicing overly stringent, you know me, leash law enforcement. So I'm not
The
a big,
important shit.
I'm not a police fan. I think the police are way overstepping their bounds, and we live in a nanny state, and I think we need to have a little less policing.
I'd actually agree with that, Francine. There's an interesting article. I'll have to find it and put it on the G3 Facebook wall. But it was talking about what it takes to. Well, there's two things I want to say. The first one was what it takes to become a police officer, right? And doesn't actually take a lot.
Very much.
So,
I know.
you have a lot of people who come into the police academy. There's some that are there for very great reasons and they do their job exceptionally well and they are there to protect and to serve and they would never get caught in a situation like this. And then you have the other half that unfortunately is starting to become what feels like more prevalent, even though it probably isn't. We're just seeing it happen now through social media and
Right.
the expansion of these stories hitting a national, focus. But, I think it's interesting when you look at it because it's like I grew up in a very small town and the same thing. The police was the one that just kind of came, broke up the local parties, and they, like Callie, got the cats out of the trees when they needed. But now I'm in San Francisco, and to be honest with you, I'm a shit talker, and I am actually like I'm not going to do that, right? Like I'm always trying to get out of a ticket. I'm always trying to make fun and light situations, and I just said I'm toning my stuff down, and I'm a white woman in a very urbanized city, and I just I don't
You
know,
don't
it's
mess
sad.
with the police now because they get, they're very authoritarian. Very.
Yeah.
I know Tina doesn't want to talk about Salesforce, but she might be out of other
What about
subjects.
Salesforce?
Tina.
What
doesn't
about
have
what?
to
Why?
talk
What do
about
you know?
Salesforce.
What have you heard?
Salesforce. What about those guys?
What do
I
we
heard
have
that
to
the
know?
French
We can
government
just
is
talk.
buying
Nobody
them.
who's a pundit knows anything.
Well, please talk amongst yourselves. I'm happy
wait,
to hear what your
Francine's-
opinion is.
Francine
Please.
wrote a very good analysis of it.
Francine.
Here's what I think. First of all, I think Mark Benioff doesn't really want to sell, but I think somebody approached them, and so he needs to get those financial advisors involved so that they can do like poison pills and whatever those things are that you institute, so that when someone tries to take you over, they can't do it. But
Yeah.
if someone were to take him over, the company that needs Salesforce the most is probably IBM, because everyone else is in the midst of its own transition, which appears to be going well. Oracle's appears to be going well. Satya Nadella appears to be making progress with Microsoft, and Apple doesn't need it, and Google doesn't. Google wouldn't even know what to do with Salesforce if it fell on them. So the only one that could possibly use it, correctly and where it might actually save the company is IBM. And I don't have
think
any
the opposite.
information.
I actually think the opposite is happening. Sometimes these leaks of potential acquisitions or potential IPO filings are done specifically to send signals out to potential acquirers to get more inbound. And I think this might be something that is happening. And that's actually a tactic that is used.
Ooh, I like that hypothesis. I like it a lot. Because, if I were Mark Benioff and I'd been doing this for 14 years, I might be ready to exit and do something else.
Well, and
Yeah.
also in this big money time.
Yeah, exactly. The big money time right before the nuclear winter that a lot of the VCs say is
Jeez.
coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
don't know.
I think it's very interesting, and I don't know if anything is going to come of it, but it's giving everybody a lot to talk about today.
So that's it. Speculation is IBM and come hither.
Or SAP. I think SAPs are a contender for this as well because they could probably use a little injection of what Salesforce has been doing. I think IBM's these guys have competing products, so it'd be interesting if IBM or SAP did integrate somebody like an Oracle, how that actually comes into their ecosystem. I have no idea, but it would be an interesting watch.
Did
Well,
you
I think
did you
all
say
these old
integrate
line-
someone like an Oracle?
She meant Salesforce.
I meant
Oh, okay.
Salesforce. Sorry, if I said Oracle, I meant Salesforce.
And no one did say Oracle. I'm
Well,
surprised.
the reason is that Oracle seems to be doing, and I do have inside information about Oracle, very small amount, because my daughter is the lead attorney in cloud services, and she's very busy. So I think Oracle's cloud services are catching on, and she's, she says that their cloud stuff is working. I'm trying to avoid forward-looking statements,
Apparently. It's getting interesting.
especially on her behalf, especially since she's an attorney. But all I can say is that just from observation, Oracle looks like it's doing a good job of trying to adapt to the cloud. And IBM, from the outside, doesn't look like it's doing a good job trying to adapt to the cloud.
You have to figure it is some very carefully planned strategy to drop that data. Nobody just says people are whining and dining me, people are wooing me unless there's something going on. And
Well, the bankers can, they hire bankers, and sometimes the leak comes out of the bankers' offices and has absolutely nothing to do with the people involved,
Right.
Although Nadella and Benioff, I guess, broke bread together sometime Tuesday.
yes,
or
there was
Wednesday.
a conference and they were together last night, right? Yeah, so.
So you're yawning because this is totally boring, Hallie?
Yeah, because I was going to say, the thing that sort of surprises me is tech is so often reported like a sports event. Like,
It is a sports event. It's the way they live. They live like it's a sports event, and these CEOs live like major league players, So
I know. It's like, oh, we're going to trade this CEO for that CEO. It is. It's like, and I hate sports, so you can imagine. I'm like, and it's always like, what's the score now? Who's doing what? Everything's like a breaking news story. There's never any depth because, like, the Red Sox got 12 points and Salesforce got 23, and it is almost ridiculous.
It's always like that when there's big money involved.
Exactly.
The money is the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Right. Well, apparently there's 44 or 45 billion dollars involved here. I had no idea because I didn't follow that, but
I know now.
I call that big money.
It's big money.
It's got to be Stuart Butterfield over there at
Slack.
that thing.
Slack.
Pound hashtag Slack.
I have to say,
And then
that
color
I
it with
love
colors.
Slack.
It's a colorful one of those things.
I love Slack. I love it. Don't make fun of Slack in front of me.
I know everybody loves it. It's all right.
It's my favorite new app. I'm on 3 different remote Slack teams, this one and 2 others, and it just has simplified my life so much.
We've started to use it a bit, but we haven't really gotten
I haven't gotten the flow.
The ball
I know,
rolling
what's the
in
matter with
big
you
time.
people?
What is the matter with
you?
you? You're doing well. We'll get there. We've been playing around with a few different applications, and I don't know. We just haven't found the right one, and I'm not sure that Slack is the right one for us either. I almost feel like, geez, I got to build something myself with our own,
Yeah, that's
particular things. But of course, they're not going to do that. But it would be nice.
We should lease ourselves out as like UX haters. Like we can't, we don't like any UX. It has to be so simple. If it passes for us, 4 times with us,
we're like, here's our specific uses, and this is what we need.
That's right. We're like the nightmare customer instead of nightmare customers.
All right. So
2-year-olds.
it's about that time.
Has
It's close.
anyone read Justine Musk's article about their divorce?
What?
Justine
What? Who? What? Divorce? What?
This is it's semi-old news. Elon Musk's first wife. She wrote a pretty amazing article about being married to an entrepreneur and what that means with things with prenups, postnups, all that. And I just thought it was interesting from a woman's perspective. If anybody else had read it, I'd love to talk about it. But if nobody else has read it, then I'm going to save it for another day.
Oh, come on. Tell us about it so we can go read it. Where was it? A Medium?
Look at entrepreneur.com is where I caught it. And it's, they were married for 8 years and they had several children, and it just talks about life as an entrepreneur in, say, his world, which was very successful very quickly, and how she didn't fit the quote unquote trophy wife mold. And
Oh, my.
what that
Ew.
means now that she's been replaced, quote unquote. She's calling herself a starter wife, which is, it's interesting. It's the First Wives Club, right? And but it was interesting because there's a huge, massive, money pit online because of his massive success. And
Right.
she signed a post-nuptial, not a prenuptial, but a post-nuptial, and there's some interesting terms going into play. And so I just thought it was fascinating. Many of us
So
are
you
married to
mean she didn't get
entrepreneurs.
enough
Many of us
money?
would probably, not allow that to happen, or at
What
least
is
we'd
the,
hope.
what's the post-nuptial? I'll give
So
I'll
It's
give
a
you
prenuptial.
what I am
It's a
entitled.
prenuptial. Yeah, no. So it's a prenuptial, but she didn't sign it until 2 months after they were married, and so there were some terms in there that I guess he didn't disclose all the deals or some of the money because he was in the process of being sold to PayPal when they got married, and so there was some of the terms of his finances that weren't disclosed in the postnuptial, and so that's what's now actually causing that agreement to possibly be overturned and her to get a pretty large sum of money. Because right now, like, you walk away from a house and that's it, right? You don't get any other cash, even though you're married to one of the most successful men in the world. After being with him for 8 years and having
Whoa.
5 children with him.
Yeah, but you see, you have
How
to
many
divorce
children?
him when he's
She had
rich.
5. They had, I guess, I don't want to get into all of it, but
5
apparently they
children
have,
in 8 years.
yeah, she had twins and then triplets.
Holy crap! Well, she did it right at least.
Yeah.
Well, and
Wow,
I look
good
at
done.
it another way. No wonder he left.
Get
No, just
five
kidding.
5 children out of 2 pregnancies. That's pretty good.
That's a
efficient.
nightmare. Are you kidding?
It's
I just
a
thought it was
nightmare.
interesting.
Of course, it's a night.
It's a nightmare.
No, but
Can you-
for as
I
far
can't
as
imagine.
pregnancies go, I'd rather be
efficient.
pregnant twice than 5 times.
Yeah.
Come
Yeah.
I just
on,
thought it was interesting.
Hallie,
I mean, I
don't
don't
you
wanna take-
remember what that was like?
I can't. It was so crazy with one. I can't imagine 3 at once. Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Much less with 2 already hanging around.
Yeah. And I don't want to dig up all of their sordid affairs and stuff like that. I just thought it was interesting as
Oh,
her.
go
I
ahead.
had to
Affairs?
go read it.
No, sorry, don't bring that word in there. But I thought it was interesting just because, like I said, we're in Silicon Valley or
Yeah.
startup land because even in Boston, and I just thought it was fascinating from a woman's perspective,
Yeah.
being married to a very successful entrepreneur, and kind of like some of the quote unquote hazards that come along with that. If you're not aware or you're not if you're too trusting in that respect, which on National Honesty Day, right? It's like got to be trusting,
Don't.
be open and honest with one another, and what happens when that doesn't happen. I just thought it was kind of a fascinating story.
It does
We
sound
have the
fascinating.
same thing with rich real estate guys in Phoenix. This
Yeah.
is nothing
Yeah.
new and nothing that has to do with technology. It's rich guys who divorce and remarry and what happens to the first wife. And it's always a pretty grim story.
But it's a story that we're not really talking about it here. And I think that's what you're saying, Christy, is
Yeah.
that, we're hearing this perspective, somebody is writing about it, and we don't talk about it that much, and we don't hear about it that much.
I think we should all read the article and then talk about it next
That's
week.
sweet.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I'll post. Like I
I'm
said,
all
I'll post
for
it on the
that.
G3 wall. I just,
Yeah.
I literally just read it on the train the other day, and I was like, "Whoa!" Right?
Yeah.
Because you're just like, I mean, I don't need half his money,
He also
but
has that
give me
like
a
choir
million.
boy
Let me
face.
live,
Like he's so
right?
wonderful. So it's great to read. He's not so wonderful.
Yeah, but see, I think Christy's going to go back and discuss paperwork with Heward. That's what I think.
Yeah, he's gonna have to sign one for me.
Um,
No, I think it's interesting because it comes down because California is a common law state, but at the
Right,
same
so
time, your assets before can be
Right.
your assets after, and I just, because we have people that they are overnight millionaires, I think it's actually a fascinating topic to discuss, and just again, it comes down to being aware and understanding your rights and protecting
But you're
yourself.
saying that she'll have a better outcome if what she signed goes away and just the California half and half agreement falls
Yeah.
into place instead.
Yes, because her postnuptial pretty much just left her with a house where, he's a bazillionaire. So and she was with him for 8 years and has 5 kids. So, there's a lot of levers in play here.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
And one of them is publicity, obviously, now.
Yeah.
Why
It's well
she's
timed.
doing
They've been dealing with this for 2 years. Her article's very well timed to bring it to head right now. And because I usually try to stay out of that stuff, I'm not a big gossipy thing, and here I'm gossiping kind of. But it was just fascinating for me, just again from
Yeah.
the perspective of a wife. It doesn't even matter if you're the wife is the entrepreneur and the husband gets SOL, right? I think it's a fascinating topic just because there's so many different elements that come into play. And yeah, Hugh and I, when we first met 12 years ago, whenever it was, we actually talked about it. And I kind of laughed and I said, no way, right? We don't get married if I need a prenup. And so he said the same thing, like, we shouldn't get married if we need to record that paperwork no matter what it is. And some people think that's foolish and some people think that's super
But you're a
smart.
first marriage. This always happens in the second marriage.
Yeah.
And there are a
we
lot
have
of
an expert
reasons.
here.
and
Let's hear.
Women need to be, yeah, right. 5 marriages down the line. I've
Yeah,
had
come
every
on,
nup you
dish.
can imagine. But
well, I'm number 2 with Steve Gilmore, and I signed nothing. So, and I was asked to sign nothing. I don't know how I would feel about that.
Well, you guys are watching Wolf Hall, right? There's some bad marriages with Henry VIII. I'm like, that was not good. Are you
right,
watching
well,
that? You guys aren't watching?
No,
No.
I don't know what it is.
Wolf Hall it's on PBS now and Sunday nights in the place of, Downton Abbey time.
Oh, wait. Say what it's called again, because I think Kevin Marks told us this on Gilmore Gang, and we couldn't understand his
What he
accent
said.
to understand the title. That's how bad it was. So
Okay,
say it again.
I'm gonna. You want me to draw it on? Here, I'll draw it on an envelope. You ready? So
You can just say it.
It starts with the letter W. Okay, wolf, like woof, woof,
Okay.
like a wolf, and then hall, like the long hallway.
Okay.
It's a place.
That
Wolf
was the word.
Hall.
Hall is the word that he just, the way he
Hall.
pronounced it, everyone was saying,
What?
are you saying hole? Are you saying, I mean, we just couldn't get it. So to us, it sounded like wool hole.
He's going.
So wool hole. And
wool,
we couldn't
right?
find wool hole on anything. Okay. All right, ladies, it's about that
Anyway.
time. One of you has a hard stop. Hello.
Yeah, it's about.
So,
it's about.
let's get
Henry
going.
VIII, Anne Boleyn.
oh, I love Anne Boleyn
I love those stories.
Who
I
doesn't
know.
love an Anne Boleyn? Okay.
with her head tucked underneath her arm.
How do you stick in Anne Boleyn right when I'm trying to kill the show?
Okay.
Okay. All right. Goodbye.
It's like it's a cut.
Okay.
We
I
got to
just spit on myself.
get the hook.
Okay. Here we go. So I'd like to thank who do I thank? Ustream for their services. We stream live and we record using Ustream, and for New Tech and their fabulous TriCaster right here. Hello. I've got lots of things piled on the deck here today, but it's a lovely machine. Okay, thank you to everybody. Thank you to Rebecca Woodcock, Francine
Tina.
Hardaway. Hallie, you held up great today.
I have no Novocaine. It went away.
It
This
went
is
away.
the perfect cure.
I
The
would
show was
never
a
have
Novocaine
noticed.
cure. And Christy Wells. Welcome back again, Christy. We missed
Thank
you.
you.
And so we'll say goodbye until next week. We'll read that article. We'll come back and talk. Maybe we'll bring Denise Howell back on, our resident
Oh, what a
legal
great
eagle,
idea.
and see what she has to say. Okay, and we'll get our logo ready, and everybody will say bye bye.
Bye, guys. Bye. That's hilarious.